as CBSE core class 11th book, we are going to talk about Hornbill, and we will be talking about the chapter 3, discovering that the saga continues. This chapter is a wonderful chapter, and it talks about how a dead body can also reveal a historical chapter. How can it reopen a chapter of human history? Egyptians used to keep their dead bodies into mummified form in pyramids, and science and technology, they intervened it, and such a mummy was discovered that was 3,300 years old. And after discovery of that mummy, a whole chapter of human history was discovered. How it was laid will be the talk of the chapter. Discovering that the saga continues is a chapter by A.R. Williams. Source for that chapter is National Geographic, volume 207 and issue number 6. Before coming to the critical discourse and critical analysis of the chapter, I would like to invite Parvati to summarize the chapter and nutshell the story.
His death was recorded before 3,300 years ago. Once his tomb was discovered, nobody knew what had happened to him. But most of them believe that murder is the extreme possibility for his death. Howard Carter is a British archaeologist who discovered the Tut's tomb in 1922. He excavated the Tut's body, and once he excavated, he found a lot many things such as linen undergarments, food, wine, etc. Then he went to investigate the three-nested coffins. Among the first, he found a red shroud decorated with a lot many things. Tomb. As he moved on to the Tut's tomb, he couldn't remove that Tut from the tomb. It is because the tomb was tightly attached to the cement. So he decided to heat that tomb in 149 degrees Fahrenheit in the blazing sunshine. So then also it couldn't be moved. So he thought that something had to be done. So he thought that something had to be done. Otherwise, the thieves would stole away all the golds in which the Tut was buried. So next comes the anatomy professor Sahi Hawass. He discovered a startling fact that his front ribs and bones were missing. The Tut's death is really a big event. He is the last heir of his family, and due to his death, the dynasty also fell rapidly. Tut's grandfather is Amenhotep IV. He ruled for 40 years, and it is considered to be the golden age. Next comes the Amenhotep IV. He changed his name to Akhenaten, and he promoted the worship of sun god. And after that, Amenhotep comes. He ruled for some years and then made his exit. And then comes Tut, who ruled for 9 years and then died unexpectedly. He was actually very keen to restore the old ways of his grandfather. The CT scan actually took place during the night, and therefore 2 men were asked to be there, and the 2 men were asked to take the Tut's tomb into his box. After 20 minutes later, the 2 men were asked to bring the plastic fans, but although the plastic fans did not work well because sand went through it, then they ordered for substitute fans, but the substitute fans also worked very well. So Sahi Hawass, the anatomy professor, was relieved, and he said that he hadn't slept for the past 3 days, and now everything was okay and fine. So he could sleep and he could sleep properly. At the end of this chapter, of the touchstone, there stood a Orion, that is a constellation, that is the soul of the Osiris, that is the god of the afterlife, watching over the king boy. Thank you. Now I would like to invite sir for the critical analysis.
In 1922, when touchstone was discovered, it was not a small time discovery because it revealed the all-time historical chapter, and it revealed the Egyptian Pharaoh ruling dynasty and 18th Dynasty golden age. In the top of 18th Dynasty golden age, Amenhotep III was the king, who was the grandfather of Tut. The Tut had 3 names mentioned in this chapter. Tut's name was Tutankhaten, and then the changed name of the person was Tutankhamun. Amun is the major worship god of Egyptian tradition, and Tutankhamun means the living image of Amun. 18th Dynasty golden age reopens the Pandora's box of a lot many things, a lot many spiritual faith, belief and lifestyle of the time. The top of the dynasty was Amenhotep III, who ruled for 4 decades, and he was succeeded by Amenhotep IV. Amenhotep IV, here the surprising element and belief and faith comes into foreplay, as Amenhotep changed his own name to Aten. Why is it so? Because he was very much influenced by the sun disk and declared sun as the god, and he declared himself as the Aten stands for the servant of the Aten, means servant of the sun, worshipper of the sun, and he changed also capital from Thebes to Aten city, and here now Aten city is presently known as Amarna, and this king Amenhotep IV, changed name Aten, he started attacking Amun temples and smashing that images of the god. Surprisingly, and this behavior was considered as wacky and cynical. Unknowingly, he was having every right to promote his worship of Aten, but he has no right to smashing the temples of Amun that was previously accepted there. It has definitely been a very tough time for them, for the people to adjust. Further going towards the dynasty history, we notice that there was a little known mysterious ruler. Whether he was having his linkage with them, this dynasty or not, this ruler was Amenhotep. And finally, the son of Akhenaten came to the crown, and he was known as Tutankhaten. He changed his name to Tutankhamun, and he restored the previous tradition, Tutankhamun, and worship of Amun god. This mummy belongs to this fellow. This mummy is of this fellow, and his small name is marked here as Tut. Tut ruled for 9 years and died unexpectedly in his late teens. This mummy of teenage boy revealed a lot many facts. The first fact that critically we can diagnose or we can analyze is Egyptian tradition. What was the royal tradition of Egypt? and it could not have been identified until and unless ancient Egyptian cemetery that was known as the Valley of the King, and this mummy couldn't have been brought out from the pyramid that was there. And then a royal tradition of the Egypt was reflected by funerary treasures that King Tut lavished with glittering goods, precious collars, inlaid necklaces, bracelets, rings, amulets, ceremonial apron, sandals, and seals for his fingers and toes, iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. This was sufficient to indicate how rich that dynasty was. And then furthermore, his coffin was three-nested. The first part of the coffin was having a garlanded shroud with petals of so many flowers and tree, and then second part was the main body. Burial resins that were poured on the body of that. It cemented the body to the golden coffin, and that is why it was quite difficult to remove his body from that golden coffin, and that's why his body was put on the sun, in the blazing sun, under the blazing sun. But again, it didn't work. This idea didn't work. They, in order to protect all those jewelry and golden materials from the and safeguard it from the thieves, they cut the body of Tut and put into a different box, and padded by and undercover sand was there. They put it there, but those jewelry was sufficient enough to declare the richness of fabulously rich kings of Pharaoh in Egypt. Then second part was a murder mystery. Tut died at the age of 19 years. This is sufficient to declare that the man's death was not a natural one. The king's death was not the natural one, and it was not a normal one, since he was the last of his dynasty. And then that is why this murder mystery was intervened by archaeology and technology and medical technology simultaneously. CT scan was done, and then a medical examination on 6 p.m. on January 5, 2005, world's most famous mummy glided head into CT scan, and a young ruler who died more than 3,300 years ago. But in 1962, the dead body of Tut was also X-rayed by an anatomy professor, and who declared that beneath the resin his breastbones and rib was missing, and that was the mystery behind his death. So this possible murder and forensic reconstruction came to the point that definitely Tut didn't die his natural death. Second part, this murder mystery and forensic reconstruction. Then there comes supernatural blind faith. Everybody was afraid about the Pharaoh tradition and the curse of the Pharaoh. They were thinking that this death will, the revealing and distorting the body of a Pharaoh king will definitely lead to the Pharaoh curse. And then each one of them were afraid. Ultimately, towards the end of the chapter, one more tradition came to be known and revealed, that Orion means the constellation, that was considered as the soul of Osiris. And who is Osiris? Osiris is the god of afterlife, means Egyptian strongly believed in life after life, and means for them death is not the eventual end of everything, but it was the there was the possibility of life, and that's why they provide sufficient material, food, and so many things to their and they bury their kings with all the lavish things that he used to utilize in his life. And then thus came the end of the mystery of the young ruler who died more than 3,000 years ago. This point was mentioned, this mystery was mentioned and came to be, modern mystery was revealed in 1968 when the fact came to the point that his breastbones and chest front ribs are missing. Then what are the things that you can say inspire us to study history? Now history and archaeology is no longer the fact of social sciences only. Rather, technology is intervening a lot. So the amalgamation of technology, medical science, forensic science, and other technical archaeology is also clubbed with technology. They are equipping human beings, and now history is not a mere subject of getting some information of old age. Rather, history is coming to the platform of archaeology, sociology, lifestyle, and everything together, and thus comes the Pharaoh rich tradition alive that can open new chapters, new avenues to human life and human study of the humankind, from where new revelations are yet to come when the advanced technology, science, history and humanities are going on a single platform, on single podium. Thank you.
It's written by A.R. Williams. Many years ago, the ancient Egypt was ruled by a young teenage ruler known as Tut. His death was recorded before 3,300 years ago. Once his tomb was discovered, nobody knew that what had happened to him. But most of them believe that it is because the extreme possibility for his death is of murder. Howard Carter is a British archaeologist who discovered the Tut's tomb in 1922, and he found out many things such as undergarments, cases of food and wine, and many things. Then he began to excavate the 3 nested coffins of Tut. He found, among that, in the first one, he found a red shroud which was decorated with olive leaves and many flowers. The ritual raisins that were poured on the mummy cemented Tut to the bottom of the coffin. Therefore, his body couldn't be taken out. So they heated the mummy in 149 degrees Fahrenheit in the blazing sunshine for a long time. Then also it couldn't be moved. So he thought that something had to be done. So otherwise he thought that the thieves would deceive the guards and they would steal all the things such as rings, amulets, inlaid necklaces, bracelets, ceremonial aprons, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes, icona in a coffin and mask, which was all made of pure gold. So he decided to cut the Tut's body into pieces and took his head separately for a scan, and again reassembled them to put him in a box. Anatomy professor also excavated the Tut's body, which discovered a startling fact, that his front ribs and breastbones were missing out. Then the death of Tut is really a very big event. He was the last heir of his family. He died in the age of 19 years. After his death, the dynasty broke out rapidly. Amenhotep IV is the grandfather of Tut, who ruled for about 40 years. It was considered to be the golden period. And next comes Amenhotep IV, who Tut's mummy reopened a new chapter of human civilization that brought into the light 18th Dynasty or Golden Age. Tut's grandfather was Amenhotep IV, who ruled for 40 years. His period was considered to be the golden age, and he was succeeded by Amenhotep III, whose ruling was considered to be one of the most strangest periods in human history. He promoted the worship of sun god, and he smashed the image and idols of Lord Amun, and he went a little wacky. And after that comes Menkaure, who is a mysterious ruler who ruled for some time and then made an exit. After that comes Tut, who is known as Tutankhamun, who changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. He was keen to restore the old ways of his grandfather, and he was keen to promote the restoration of old ways of his grandfather. He ruled for 9 years, and after his death, the dynasty fell rapidly. The ancient mummy Egyptian project so far have founded 600 mummies and is still counting. That is the first mummy to be CT scanned in death and as well as life. Scan from head to toe, creating 1700 digital X-rays in order to study its intricate structures and to study the Tut's body in detail. The scan took place till night, and 2 men were asked to bring from out of his tomb and put him in a box. And after 20 minutes later, 2 men were asked to bring up the plastic fans, but the plastic fans didn't work well because sand went into it. The guard joked nervously that it is because of the curse of the Pharaoh. Then afterwards the substitute fans worked well. Sahiba smiled, and he said that everything was fine, no data had been lost, and he hasn't slept for the past 3 days, and now he is free, and therefore he could sleep properly. At the entrance of the Tut's tomb, the constellation of Orion, that is the soul of the Osiris, that is the god of afterlife, stood over there by watching over the king boy. Thank you. When I read this chapter, I felt that it actually focuses mainly on the history, and it tells about so many things about the past, and therefore it reopens the history of a king, and it also tells about the medical examinations and murder mystery of this king. The book Hornbill, which tells about the chapter 3, discovering Tut, the saga continues. I felt like a detective story. I felt like reading a detective story.